Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're in the last few days of Ramadan, and we wanted to talk about a few important takeaways that we need to have as we leave Ramadan. Hopefully, we can take and incorporate these lessons right now for the final few days, and also, going forward, inshallah, every Ramadan that we encounter, we'll be able to take advantage. First, we'll start off that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O believers, the fasting has been prescribed to you as it was to those before you, so perhaps you'll become mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here taqwa is God consciousness and being mindful, making sure that am I doing this action? When I do this action, is it halal? Is it haram? Am I being aware of my actions? I don't just blindly go do whatever I please. And here, this concept, you can see it with your food and drink. You're so cautious not to eat or drink anything, and you want this act to be sincere. So the first principle, the first takeaway is the reason fasting was prescribed was for us to achieve ikhlas, sincerity, and taqwa, which is God consciousness. So it's very easy for you to be fasting and no one can really see if you break your fast or you're not sincere. So this is an action, act of worship that is very highly rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's because of the difficulty that it takes to do it correctly. But hopefully we can perform and avoid all the things that are incorrect going forward. The second thing that I wanted to mention is patience. Fasting teaches us patience, and this is something that is going to be visible right as we're avoiding, food and drink, avoiding getting angry, avoiding doing things that are haram, backbiting. We take into consideration all of our little details, and we're very patient. We make sure, if there's food, I don't eat. If I, just making sure that our behavior is perfect, right? And this is something that we learn in the month of Ramadan. And another reason to want to be patient is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الصَّابِرِينَ. Right? This love from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should help us feel content and at ease. The next takeaway is we learn to leave the halal for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this also means that we should be leaving the haram. Some people are asking about a drop of water entering their mouth when they're still cursing and lying and listening to things that are haram. Or they could be watching haram TikTok reels and shorts during Ramadan. Avoid these apps entirely, as much as you can, especially because of just how many things can go inappropriate. Like you can get a lot of inappropriate things showing up on these types of apps. And Aisha radiallahu anha says, whoever wants to be the diligent and consistent worshipper should stop at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made haram. And this ties back in with taqwa, right? So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he had so much taqwa that he found out that the food he already consumed was haram, so he threw it up. He didn't want it in his system. The next thing, fasting is a school, right? It helps us control our tongue, or it teaches us to control our tongue so that we're not cursing and lying. Because if you do those things, then you're not really you're not really fasting correctly. Because the believer, it's said that the hadith says that المسلم من سلم المسلمون من لسانه ويده. The Muslim is the one who other Muslims are safe from his tongue and his hands. So this tongue, this little muscle, it can lead us to Jannah or Jahannam. So we have to guard our tongue, what we're saying, and who we're talking about, making sure we're avoiding things that just aren't going to benefit us. The Prophet ﷺ said, "من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت." Whoever believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the day of judgment should say something good or not say something. And then finally we have another point, which is the reward. At the end of the fasting, we have an excitement. We get to eat. We get to realize how much blessings we're in. We get to see our food. And there's also the bigger reward, which is on the day of judgment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? لِلصَّائِمِ فَرْحَتَانِ. You have the farha when you have your iftar, and then you have the excitement and reward that you're going to see on the day of judgment. And then another takeaway is qiyam. Qiyam is extremely important, especially in the last 10 nights, because Laylatul Qadr can be in the last 10, is going to be in the last 10 nights. So it's really important that we're taking full advantage. We're doing as much tahajjud as we can, praying in the last third of the night. And there's a beautiful hadith about this, which is من قام مع الإمام حتى ينصرف كتب له قيام الليلة قيام ليلة. Whoever does qiyam with the imam until he leaves, it's written for him as if he did qiyam the entire night. So these takeaways, hopefully we can come out of Ramadan being more patient, having better self-control, having heavier deeds in our scales, and not being someone that all they got out of their fasting was hunger and thirst. So there are three types of people that leave Ramadan. There are people that are born like new babies. Yani, subhanAllah, they benefited, they gained the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're going to continue to be good people until the end of their time. Then we have some people who are very close to the hellfire, and they became freed from the hellfire because they turned their life around in Ramadan. Then we have people that they come out of Ramadan having gained nothing from it, just absolutely wasted it. They didn't do anything beneficial in this month, and they treated it just like any other month. They just completely ignored it. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from us. I ask that we are all able to witness Laylatul Qadr, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us witness another Ramadan, and I hope that inshallah we're all going to have that reward on the Day of Judgment for all of the fasting that we're doing. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.